Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swiz, here to talk all things round 20, which is the start of the Supercoach finals, the teams, ins and outs that are going to affect our Supercoach sides, and answering your questions that you have sent in. As always, continue to check us out through all the platforms out there, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or the YouTube, and connect to us on Twitter, Supercoach Insider 100 for the three of us, or Swiz26 for me directly. Big shout out to our sponsors, Splash Vodka, Earn You, and Manscaped. We really appreciate your support as we do the community. Kicking off with my side this week, another good week for me. Continue to come home strong, which is good. Just unfortunately, I left this run a bit too late, so it was a 24-28 this week. Went up 49 places to 348th overall. So yeah, we're starting to kick, but unfortunately there's not enough length on that Flemington straight to kind of catch those top players, in particular my mate Abdul, who's still in first. So he's been doing the media rounds, but he's a little bit in trouble with these zero trades, but he's still holding on. So we wish him all the best, as we wish everybody the best out there. In regards, we'll get straight into the teams because there's a couple of interesting ins and outs that are going to affect. So we've got Freo Melbourne on the Friday night, and I'll link that in with the VC options as well. I know if a lot of people are looking at Clayton Oliver, so that's where I'm heading at the moment. I think he's the obvious VC on the Friday night. The big news there is out Nat 5, but I don't think that's actually more Supercoach relevant. It's just more of a, Freo, one of their better players, even though they're probably not reliant on him as much anymore. But you like to see the the superstars of the game still out there. So unfortunately, he is out. Jake Lever is back for the D's. Collingwood Port Adelaide, the big one there is not in Grundy. It's only De Goey that's come in so far. Out Myercheck, who's injured, and Carmichael, who came on as that super sub in this last quarter. I think 2 goals, has been left out. Would not be surprised to see Carmichael as the sub again. Extended bench information there. Teakle is on the extended bench, so just watch those loopholes. I know a lot of people like to use Teakle as their captain loophole, so yeah, that's one you got to watch to the last moment. William Drew's been left out of that side, but he could be the most likely sub for the Port Adelaide Power. There is a bit of news about Mason Cox being ill. At the moment, he's named in the ruck. For all our Darcy Cameron owners out there, we're hoping he pulls out. And I think Trey Rusco's probably their biggest tool there that they could probably bring in, or Henry as well. So in a perfect world, Cox would pull out, one of them come up and play forward, and Cameron gets in the ruck. So that's a bit of a must watch there. In big news for Port Adelaide, Dan Houston is out. So I know that'll affect a lot of teams who have him, and been a bit frustrating because his best is very good for us super coaches, but unfortunately he especially injuries or those down games can be frustrating. Sydney's only dropped their medical sub in Wick so far, but the Giants for that game, for the Battle of the Bridge, they've brought back Perryman, Hogan, Josh Kelly, Whitfield, Lee Kalia makes his debut, and ins Tom Green. So some massive ins for GWS. Out Riccardi, they've got Briggs, Bruin, and O'Halloran. A couple of guys I know, especially for draft leagues, for keeper, people were looking at, so a little bit frustrating there that they're dropped, but I'm sure people in those deeper leagues will have cover. Saints and the Hawks, back comes Dan Hanbury from that long layoff of injury. I think somebody was saying today he's played 15 or 16 games in that 4-year deal for St Kilda, so wish him all the best. Out for the Saints, Billings and Gresham. Gresham's gone for the season. I think that affects, it's 53 people in the top 1,000 and maybe 3 people in the top 100. So hopefully those people have trades left. Most likely you would hope that Gresham's been that sort of loophole player on the bench, but if he is on the field, let us know what you're planning to do there. We might have to talk about a couple options for those people affected. The Hawks pretty standard. Impey's been managed, so Phillips, the sub's been dropped. Giath's back. Nothing else to report there. But actually, for the St Kilda, we missed one there. On the rucks is Tom Campbell. So very interesting that the Saints are still playing the 2 ruck setup, and Marshall's been named in the forward line. So a lot of people are thinking about going DC to Marshall. And maybe that's not the move, that if you haven't gone there already, for those who went there last week, it's not the kind of news you want to see. And you'd be hoping Marshall has a big game up forward, because I wouldn't expect Tom Campbell to be playing much forward time. Yeah, so very interesting sort of decision there. Geelong Bulldogs, Segler and Tommy Stewart is back. It seems to be a popular trade this week. People who are going Hewitt to Stewart if they've got enough money. So, definitely a great move, especially Stewart at home. He absolutely smashes it down there in Geelong. If you can do that trade, definitely get on. Fortunately, I'm a little short, so I haven't pulled the trigger on that one. For the Doggies, in comes Caleb Daniel, which will naturally affect Bailey Dale's output a little bit there, but it'll be offset because Adam Treloar is out with an injury, so I don't know how long that could affect him for, but yeah, Treloar's been playing off that half-back role, so I just gather Daniel, depending on where he's been named here. I think Daniel's actually been named on the bench to start, but I'd expect him to slot back in that half-back line, what Treloar's been doing. And we've got Adelaide Carlton next. Jack Silvani's been dropped actually for the Blues. That's an interesting move. Dodie injured. Nothing else to report from that game. Just having a look at the emergencies. Nothing else there. That's my captain at the moment. If Oliver was to fell, Roy Laird has been on fire, so we'll back him in against the Blues. The Sunday games, we've got Mac Andrew making his debut, so we've lost another one for next season, unfortunately. Even though he's that taller player, you still don't want these. Well, it's great for the rookies that they're getting a game, but at the same time frustrating from a Supercoach point of view. For the Eagles, Witherden's out injured again. Josh Kennedy naturally managed for the road trip, but they've brought back Clark, Nick Nat. There's a couple, I think probably Greg Clark's probably the relevant. Hugh Dixon's back in, but I don't think anybody's holding on to him anymore. For Richmond Brisbane, we've got in Ross, Marsh, Mansell, Tommy Lynch, extended squads for these games as well. Coleman is back for the Lions, so that's an important in, but that's to replace Daniel Rich, so probably good one for Coleman owners, because being Rich out, that'll give him more points in that half-back line. And the lucky last game, Essendon North, Perkins. They've named Jai Menzies, but it's an extended squad at the moment. D'Ambrios, who I think is on the extended bench still, which he is. So there's a few people hoping he gets named to cover that Hewitt injury. And for the Kangaroos, they've got Josh Goder and Kalen Dawson. Kalen Dawson is definitely making his debut. North Melbourne announced that. The big out there is Aaron Hall. I know a few people went Hewitt to Hall last week. We all know Hall's potential, but he is out with that COVID protocol, so very frustrating for those owners right there. They're the big ins and outs. And as I said, the real big ones around that back line, we know Hewitt's still out, so some people are trying to move on him if they didn't already last week. And those people who are now, have gone Hewitt to Hall or were somehow, whatever trade they were doing regarding bringing Marshall in last week or this week, there's going to be some scoring affected there. Alrighty, on the Richmond forum, I had a couple people talking about their trade situation, so unfortunately I can't do much about your very lack of trades and that. This is just the situation some of us find ourselves in. But if you're one of those lucky people who have trades coming into finals, it's an interesting question about how should you, if you've only got one trade left, should you use it? And I guess it's the kind of situation you're in. If you're in a do and death final this week, as we talked about last week, trying to make finals, if you've got that one trade left and you're at 5th, 6th, 7th or 8th in your league and you've got to try to win, you may as well use that trade. And then it comes down to if you're playing for overall and your ranking, if you're sort of in that top 100 and you can sort of get by with one of these rookie scorers, it's a different story. But then at the same time, how much ground could you potentially lose and how are you going to make that up? So, it's kind of in that situation where maybe it is burn the trade and go all in. And that's where I'm kind of sitting at the moment. So I've still got Hewitt there. I could carry him. It could extend to be further than just this week again. I've got two obvious moves I can do, which is Vlosten comes in the defence. I really would have loved Stewart, but unfortunately, can't do that. So if Vlastuin comes in, that keeps my swing going, and Cameron, becomes sort of my swing player there. Most likely with Grundy still out and Cox with that kind of flu, he will be the one on the field this week, and I'll loophole maybe a Dunkley type or someone who's been misperforming as things continue to pop up on my laptop for whatever reason. The other thing I'm slightly considering is Max Gawn. So I'd lose my defensive loophole. Himmelberg would go to the back line, but for 3 weeks I'd have no defensive cover, which I don't really like. But Maxi Gawn coming into that ruck line could be really good, but yeah, I don't like that as much because I like the situation how I'm covering all lines at the moment, and potentially happy to take the kind of risk on someone like Vlastuin. But at the same time, if I don't need to make the trade and I can hold Hewitt, well, that's something I'm trying to lean to at the moment. I've got a full team on field, so potentially I might just continue to go with that. The problem is, how many weeks if Hewitt keeps missing, am I missing the potential? For example, if Vlastuin was to come in, score another sort of 110, that gives me the ability, say, to bench a Dunkley or somebody who doesn't perform so well this week. So, yeah, there's a bit of food for thought around there. All right, the Twitter questions this week. We've got Freeze. He's asking me, who would you put as your F6 this week? So his forward line is Bont, Cogs, Timmy English, Will Brodie, Dunkley, and Luke Jackson. He's also got DC as his R3. And then he's also got Bailey Williams as his bench. Now, the problem possibly there for you, Freeze, is Teakle is your only non-playing forward ruck, and he's potentially could be a sub this week now, or a late in. Now, I think probably not, but you're going to have to wait and watch that one to the last moment. If you've got the ability to, I would probably try to loophole Jackson on the bench just because he's playing the Friday night game. But then, as I said, there's some risk there, especially, actually Bailey Williams. Let's just double check he's in because you might have a potential extra loophole there. But he did play well last week. Williams, no, Williams is named on field, I'm pretty sure. Yes, he is. So, unfortunately for you there, mate, yeah, it might have to only be Jackson because Teakle plays the early game on the Saturday. So, yeah, maybe Luke Jackson on the bench. And then if he performs, well, yeah, you might have to then put Teakle. Well, if he performs, Teakle goes on field and you just hope he doesn't play. But then if he does play, then Darcy Cameron comes on your field and then Teakle will go into your R3. If Jackson doesn't perform, then Darcy Cameron comes on your field anyway in that spot. So those people have got these multiple ruck, like with English and Jackson, Cameron, Goldstein, who can swing forward and ruck. Yeah, Jackson, if you're still holding him, he's probably your best loophole option this week. Who have we got here? Corey, good Northman. Who do I trade in for Hewitt, English, or Bailey Smith? Yeah, I've heard a few people talking about Bailey Smith this week. I'm still going to back in the Ruckman English. It'd probably get the only thing I'd say, if your ruck line's pretty settled, and you've got backup, well, it's probably Bailey Smith. But I think a lot of people are, potentially those ruck lines have been a bit up and down all year with potentially players missing and stuff, where it's been easy to cover sort of a midfield forward. Like I've still got Connor McDonald there. There's a few other players floating around. Not Carmichael this week, but Jai Cully, for example. So yeah, if you've got one of them, I'd probably leaning on English. He does have good scoring potential anyway, but it probably just does give you a better cover for those last 3 weeks. SS7, down to the last trade, ranked in the top 300. If I trade Hewitt to Stewart, it means I have to loophole Darcy Cameron Baker at F67, but I'm thinking keeping Hewitt and trade either Darcy Cameron to Bailey Smith or Baker. What are your thoughts? Hewitt to Stewart, if you've got the cash, do it. Absolutely 100% to do it. And if you've got the loophole option there, put Darcy Cameron on the bench as your emergency, Liam Baker on field, and then bring on that non-playing player if Darcy Cameron goes well. To DV, I don't know what premium would give the best return for my last trade. Swap one of Short, Crisp, or Hewitt to Stewart, or Dawson or Himmelberg. Or swap one of Petrarca, Cripps, or Brayshaw to Oliver or Laird. I'm not trading probably. Well, the obvious one there, mate. Hewitt's not playing, So trade him to Stewart. You've got the money. Like Stewart at Geelong is just a no-brainer there. So that's the one I definitely recommend. And thank you for those questions, guys. The break-evens, like a few of the other people have been asking me, how do I get more trades? Supercoach, teams to target for trade-ins based on remaining fixtures, maybe for each position. That's a good question. I think it is Adelaide off the top of my head. There's somebody who's got this absolutely gunning draw on the way home, and I think it is Adelaide the last 3 weeks. They got Blues, but next week they've got West Coast, then they've got North Melbourne, and then they've got Port Adelaide. So possibly Port Adelaide season, if not already over, will be over this week against the Pies, just the way the Pies have been playing. Like you kind of hope Port continues to breathe life into the season there, but yeah, that's a really soft draw for the Crows. So you got to like that. Any of the other ones? Who else is actually playing West Coast and North? That's probably the easiest way to do it. Bit of a question on notice here. No, definitely not West Coast. I hate their draw. And actually, I think Geelong and Geelong. Geelong have the Bulldogs at home, St Kilda at home, Suns away, and West Coast at home. So they got the 3 games in Geelong. We know how Geelong play down there. So that's definitely a you want Geelong players playing on their home deck. So Stewart's the obvious one. If you can get a Cameron in, even maybe a Guthrie for whatever reason you needed a midfielder, those 3 are really good trade-ins because they should perform really well. And the only danger is if Melbourne were to drop another game and Geelong got kind of a game clear, do they kind of rest people? But at least now with that bye week between round 23 and the bye, the first week of finals, they're less likely to rest one of those players, especially Stewart, because he's already been out for 4 weeks. So, yeah, I think the Cats are a really good team to focus on there. And as I said, the covering those lines, Stewart back, Guthrie mid, and Cameron up forward, or even Hawkins if you needed more discount. But Cameron, though they're a very unselfish team, would not surprise me, the Cats, if they get in a position where they can get their players a Coleman medal, in particular Cameron. I could see it happening. Nathan, good Carlton man, and he's clearly listened to the last couple of shows where the boys have given me a bit of crap. Why don't I eat chicken or drink beer? They're very un-Australian of me. Beer, I just don't like the taste. Simple as that. I'm more of a spirits person, much prefer your vodka. I don't mind vodka, but your scotch, bourbons, drink like especially Krakens, your Chivas Regals, stuff like that. So always more been towards that. And chicken actually makes me unwell. Just a weird thing. Apparently not alone. I've actually worked with 2 other people who have the same thing. So I heard some stat there's like 40,000 Australians that don't eat chicken because of different allergies and stuff, but I don't know how true that is. But yes, I definitely know there's 2 others out there. So yeah, just a weird thing. I do eat other meats, just not chicken, unfortunately. So yeah, no, great question, and thank you for those questions, guys. I always appreciate that. I know it's a hard position to get in because a lot of people, as I said, don't have a lot of trades left, so it's harder to do. But yeah, if you've got the money and you've still got Hewitt to Stewart, that's your trade in this week. If you don't have the money, we talked about a few with Benny the other day, but if you've got the loophole options and you could get a Gorn up and forward, fantastic. If you need a defender, Vlosten's a good price. Bailey Dell, it's been still good. With Treloar out, it does help, but Caleb Daniel, we weren't as keen on that one. And the other one we were talking about in the defence line was, apologies for this, my phone does not want to work. It is, who we got there? We can't do Houston. We've got, Rich being out, that's a bit of annoying, but, Brayshaw's not too of a bad one. Aaron Hall, I know we mentioned, but unfortunately for those people who brought him in, but if you want to kind of maybe left field, I've been a bit against Jordan Ridley recently, but just because Redmond's out, could be a bit of a sneaky one there at the right price. But I guess it comes down to how many trades and how much price. And one of the other reasons I like Vlosten and Gorn, just because I hate having salary cap left over at the end of the year. Like, it'll be 0 trades, and if I've got 20, 30k, it just annoys me. So in this case, it would be Vlosten or Gorn would leave me with about 1,000. So it's just one of those psychological things that just annoys me. But hopefully, like myself, a few other people can get through without using trades, and that sort of gives us some leeway, especially if you're going to be in a cutthroat semi or prelim in the next couple of weeks, that you kind of want to at least have a trade left, because most likely your opponent might, and you don't want to be in that situation where you get another injury, like, for example, those who have Gresham, and then you're stuck with him for the rest of the year, and there's nothing to do with him. So yeah, the best advice would be, unless it's Stewart to Stewart, try to save that trade. And that's it for me this week. So all the best in your super coaching, and we'll talk next week. Bye.